Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai a croeso, welcome to the next episode of What's Your Story. And we love hearing personal stories all across Wales and all the way from West Wales today. I mean, Llanelli is West Wales, but where Mark comes from is pretty west of Wales. Mark Burch, who is a financial planner, he's come here today to tell his personal story, building his financial planning business, and also his focus now in mindset and helping, just encouraging and getting the best out of people and showing positivity. And yet, finally, you've been gunning me down to come on here, Mark, for some time, and I'm very, very blessed to have you on your day off. He doesn't work Fridays, but to come here on your day off and record an episode, really grateful to have you here, mate.
Oh, it's really good to be here, James. Thank you.
So for those who are listening and watching, Sleek Stone Private Clients, that's the bulk of the current business, the established business. You've been doing this for many, many years. In your day job then, can you just explain to the listeners what that entails? What does a typical week look like in financial planning?
It really depends what Donald Trump does in certain times, because it's just been crazy. I mean, between him and Liz Truss, must be something about politicians with a surname beginning with T. It just, it's crazy. Typical day job, it can be anything from dealing with people who've passed away and we're dealing with their executors, or we're dealing with the children because we look after their investments. It could be new investments. It could be talking to people about retirement planning and making a plan for a 20-year-old that when they're 65, they're going to be able to retire, on a comfortable income. It could be somebody who's 90 who's suddenly going, I've left it a bit too late for inheritance tax planning. So it is a very, very varied role that we play. And one thing I've noticed, and it leads straight into the mindset thing, but one thing I've noticed is that a lot of what I do as a financial planner is also almost like life coaching at the same time. Because you're talking to people about money, and we had a very brief chat before here about what does money mean to you, and what do we want money for. Everybody's rationale for money is different. Everybody's reason for having money is different. And I think the really interesting thing with it is that when you get to the nuts and bolts of what somebody wants money for, it might be because they want to educate their kids better. They want to send their kids to private school. It might be they want to get a second home or a holiday home abroad, or they might just want to have a comfortable, secure life. And the money then becomes less relevant in terms of, I want money, because it suddenly becomes a story of what do you actually want? And it's not the money that you want. What you want is the lifestyle that money can buy you, which ties in very nicely to the whole mindset thing in the first place. Because if you've got the mindset that says, I want this particular life, and you can visualize that life, you can start taking your steps toward it.
Money is a big part of our lives, isn't it, Mark? And for myself as a Christian, the Bible and Jesus talk so much about money. And actually, I think what you're getting at is when people ask about, we need more money to do this. Well, actually, what they want is the outcome of what the money can do for them. But it plays a big role in our lives. And it's really important that we get that advice, isn't it? And I think that's what you help people with is educating them on how they can maybe secure it or invest it to grow the money so they have more money when they retire. I think I'm 29 now, and only just 6 months ago I finally got my pension sorted. After a long time. It was something that, when you're self-employed, sometimes you don't think about those things. If you're in public services, it's already sorted for you, and you can have, in some cases, pretty good pensions in some services. But money is a big part of our lives, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think the thing is people want money for different reasons. And there's a great technique I learned years ago where you just ask the question, what does money mean to you? And the idea is that the client then says the first thing that comes into their head. And then you say, okay, so for argument's sake, let's try it with you. So what does money mean to you? First word that comes to your head.
What does money mean to me? feel like I'm in one of your mindset sessions. What does it mean to me? Well, it enables me to do things.
Okay, so it enables you. So what does enabling mean to you?
It's an enabler, and for me, that would mean doing things I enjoy.
Okay, so what does enjoyment mean to you?
Enjoyment means activities that bring me happiness, joy, going out for coffees, experiences, dining, those are the sort of things I love, you know?
So what we do with this process is the next thing would be, what does happiness mean to you? I think you just think of another word, and then we keep going until you can think of nothing else. And that last word is what money really means to you. Now, we did it with a client many years ago, and we went through all of this, and the last thing he came out with was security. And the premise of that was that he was saying as a child they didn't have enough to eat when they were kids. They had a really sort of harsh and financially struggling upbringing. And his big driver in life, the core of him for money, was security. And once we got that, it was like a light bulb that went on, and he went, that's why I save, and that's why I invest, and that's why I do what I do. And now he knows what it is, and he knows that is the core of him. That's what the important thing is. Every single time he puts an extra £1 into a pension, or £1 into an investment, or £1 into an ISA, he's doing it for the right reason. He's doing it because it's security. And we've done it with other people. Other people have come up with happiness. So money means to them is happiness. Being able the ability to say to grandchildren, you know what, come on, let's go and buy you an ice cream, without thinking, crikey, have I got enough money in the bank to cover it, etc., etc. So, I've met people across my life, all walks of life. That I think the happiest person I ever knew was probably financially one of the poorest people I've ever met. But she was the happiest person I think I've ever met. I must admit, it was up in the Himalayas when, as you know, I went up with supporting Nepal's children. And we went trekking in the Himalayas, and there's a thing when you're trekking that if you're going through the villages and you need to go to the loo, it's customary you can just knock on someone's door in one of the villages and just ask if you can borrow whatever they use as a toilet. And we'd gone into this particular house, and this little old lady was in there, and one of the Sherpas took me in and explained to her that I need to go to the toilet. And we went through at the back, and there was just a hole in the ground. And you went to the toilet and then went back through the house. And in the house, you had one chair, one tiny little table, one spoon, one bowl, and one cooking pot. And I said to the chef, I said, look, I don't want to be like a rich Westerner going, here, have some money. But is it customary to give a gift or thanks? Or, what do I do to say thank you? Because, she's just opened her house to me. I said, she looks very poor. And he said, why do you think she's poor? I said, well, she's only got one chair, one spoon, one bowl. So, she lives on her own. Why does she need more than that? Mind blown moment. I was stood there going, flipping out, as Westerners, we've got, looking at your shelf behind you, we've got ornaments, we've got stuff, we've got things that carry sentimental value or whatever it may be. We picked up knickknacks from holidays and all that kind of thing. And you go in this house in the middle of the Himalayas, and she was the loveliest woman who was so relaxed, and there was nothing seemed to faze her, and it was, come in, and we had a lovely conversation about 10 minutes. And there was nothing there. And you look at it from a Westerner's point of view. And then when we came out, I said, well, why hasn't she got anything? And he was saying, because we don't need it.
I'm laughing because we've got, dining, a set of bowls and plates and things in the house. There's only 2 of us in the house. And Amy's moaning that there's 6 side plates, not 8 plates, because we smashed 2 of them. And it's like, I just made me think now, I'm flipping out, I got more plates than this woman in Nepal. My goodness.
Exactly. And the thing is, I think is that it's things like that when you look at it then and go, actually, to that woman, money was not necessarily survival, because again, up in the Himalayas, a lot of it is trade. So they'll trade off, certain skills, and they'll eat because they'll do something for somebody else. But we're very driven in the Western world by money, and we're very driven in the Western world by the desire to have more and be more. And if you buy a nice car, you want the next nice car. You buy a nice house, you want the bigger next house. Where does it stop? And people who have money and have worked for it and have built businesses and so on and so forth, like you're doing with your business, if you build the business to a size where you're comfortable, you then get to make that decision as to whether do you take it to the next level. Do you now go, exactly as we were talking about earlier, do you go from 4 employees to 20 to 50 to 100? Do you suddenly have a private jet because you've got to fly around the world to talk to all these people? If it brings you enjoyment, and that your true purpose in life is that, and that's what you want, go for it. If you want to be as rich as Jeff Bezos, great, go for it. There's literally nothing between you, me, and Jeff Bezos in terms of ability. He's just had the right people around him. He's made the right decisions at the right times. He's taken risks when risks need to be taken. And look at what he's built and the empire he's now got. And I'd love to meet him to ask him if he's happy. Do you know what I mean? Genuinely happy. Are you actually genuinely happy with the lifestyle you've got? Because money doesn't necessarily bring happiness. Hell, it makes life easier, let's be honest. If you've got money, it's easier than not having money. Yeah. But it doesn't necessarily make you happy. You've got to figure out what your purpose is first before you realise what happiness, true happiness actually is.
Why did you get involved in financial planning in the first place? What was the sort of motivation? Was it to help people? Do you get a thrill out of when people get a big win on an investment? What was the sort of motivation?
Honestly, it was by accident, like most people. I don't think anybody ever went to school when I was a kid going, I'm 28, by the way, so I'm just a little bit younger. I don't think anybody ever goes to school and go, I'm going to be a financial planner when I finish school. And I went in to work for an insurance company back in the late 90s. And I saw these financial advisors with their salesmen back then because there was no exams, so anybody who could walk and talk could do the job. Walking in their flash suits and their nice cars, and I thought, I fancy a bit of that. And then we moved to Wales, and by chance got talking to somebody who said, we're looking for people to come and work with the co-op insurance, and you have to now do all these exams. And there was a big shift, late 90s, early 2000s. The industry changed. They brought in some exams and said, if you're going to do this job, you now have to be qualified. And you have to be, originally it was certificate level qualified. And there was a massive shift in the industry. Loads of people left because they all went, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do exams. And there were lots of people left. So there's all these gaps then for younger people to come through and start doing it properly, I would argue. So I did the exams and very quickly learned I actually really like talking to people. And that was it. I mean, it was great because you go and talk to somebody and they go, I've got this problem. And I'm a fixer. That's me generally in life. I mean, you know this, I've known you for a long time. If you have a problem, come to me and I'll help you try and fix it. Whether I get, there's a financial incentive for me or not, I will help you try and fix it because that's just what I do. And when you're sat across from somebody who says, I've just sold a house, I've just inherited, I've just won the lottery, I've done, we've got people who've had accidents and, they've had payouts and so on and so forth, who literally have no clue what to do with it at all. And if you think back 25, 27 years ago, pre-internet, trying to get advice about money or learn about things would all come from books. And the books you'd be reading would already be 10 years old by the time they get to you. So it's not current, it's not, it's not that easy to understand money and where to put things and ISAs and PEPs as they used to be back in the day and all these things. So you could turn up and go, actually, I'm really knowledgeable in this. This is what I've learned. Here's my skill set. I'll help you with this. And then you tend to find that, like all things, with experience, you start to grow and you start to realize actually, your objective may not be that very different to somebody else's objective. You might have very different timelines, like you're 29, so you might be looking and thinking, well, by the time I'm 60, I want to be getting retired. I might be talking to somebody tomorrow who's 60 who's looking to retire next year. But you've still got the same objectives. You both want to retire in a comfortable, wealthy arena. So it was really, I'd say it was genuinely by accident I got into the industry, but I just found that I was actually really very good at talking to people and listening and actually hearing what people were really saying. Because somebody might say, I really want to invest money, and you're sitting there and think you don't. Someone's told you that you should invest it or, whatever it may be. And I like the stories. I like hearing why you want to do what you want to do. I like hearing what you want to do in the future. I like hearing how you got that money in the first place. Because like all business people, if you surround yourself with great people, you pick up on what they do, you pick up on how they've done it, you see how successful they've been, you work out how they've achieved what they've achieved. And I've had the luxury of doing that with my clients because I look after some really successful business owners, entrepreneurs, etc., who've gone, I started with absolutely nothing and I've got a £10 million portfolio. And you question them. It's almost like having the equivalent really of the sort of South Walian equivalent of talking to Richard Branson, sitting there and going, so how did you build this empire? And they go, well, I did this and then that happened and this happened and that happened. And then you start to realize there is a pattern. But you've got to follow the pattern. And the biggest part of the pattern is actually adapting and changing your mindset, changing your direction, and be willing to to turn around and kind of go, you know, actually, this isn't the path I want to be on anymore. My path now leads that way. And being able to be strong in your mind enough to be able to follow that path all the way through to conclusion, rather than being dragged back to the original sort of destination.
Right. What I'm sensing there is, especially when you're maybe outlining some of the conversations you have with a client, is actually you're not really asking a lot about money and figures. It's actually asking really thought-provoking questions to almost unlock a deeper meaning in what they want to do. So, and I can see how that now plays a role in your sort of in your mind shift business and coaching that's brewing. So yeah, it's almost like you said it earlier, you're a fixer. You're to help people fix problems. And I know in my experience, when I think that we got introduced during COVID online, it was great to sort of build that relationship online remotely and get involved in networks and support one another. But come in to see you in your home many years ago. I remember sharing some stuff with you, and you were giving me a different perspective, and albeit that your experience and your knowledge might be in financial services and wealth, but yeah, I think it's good to have a different perspective when you get somebody asking lots of maybe tough questions, or a lot of people who are in the coaching world, business coaches, the real business coaches. Let's be honest, there's a lot of coaches out there.
Oh, there's a lot of coaches. Yeah, absolutely.
I think the real, authentic coaches ask questions, try to unlock the answers, don't they?
I think you're right, and I think the thing is, I mean, I say I'm a fixer, but I mean, on the bump for the mindset thing, we actually sound that we're not trying to fix you because you're not broken. We're just trying to steer you in a different direction. We're trying to put you on the path that you need to be on. And my role in that is to work with my clients and say, well, look, what is your purpose? What do you really want to do? And a friend of mine explains it really well. He said, you get a blank piece of paper and act like you're a kid at Christmas. And money is no object. When I was a kid, it was the Argos catalogue. You get given that and say, pick what you want.
I remember that.
Oh, good. That's good. But it's that thing of, if you sit down with a blank piece of paper and just bombard that piece of paper with ideas, like, I want to go here, I want to travel here, I want to do this, I want to marry this person, I want to do X, Y, and Z, I want to live in a house that looks like this. All these things will give you a clearer insight in actually where you want to be trying to go to. And the biggest thing with it all is that if you can work out what your purpose is, you can then reverse engineer it and go back to the intention and go, okay, so my intention is to end up here. This is where I want to get to. I've got to start here. So my intention is to move from here to here. And the goal really is try and make yourself move every single day a little bit closer to what your purpose actually is. And going off, not necessarily a tangent and such, but there's a great thing, a theory called the X and Y theory. So at the moment, your X factor says you turn up for work at 9 o'clock every day, you finish at 5 o'clock every day, you get paid a salary by your employer, you know all your work colleagues, you may not like them all, but you know what, it's okay, it's a job. And it pays the bills and life is okay. And you end up being contentedly discontent. So you're content with what you've got, you'd like more, but you know what? I'll take it because it's neat. Life is easier by just staying in my lane and staying on the X path. If you decide, actually, I don't want to do that anymore. So take you, for example, you suddenly one day go, actually, you know what? I want to go into videography. I want to do this. I want to move into this direction. And your X factor is all the time is, well, James, why would you do that? Come back and work at McDonald's and do this because life is good and you're getting paid and it's all safe. But your Y factor is going, but I can do this. I can cope with this. I want to go down this route and see how far I can get. The entire time your ego or your X factor is pulling your head and saying, this might go wrong. Don't do that. What happens if you do this? What happens if that, when you started the business, what happens if you don't get clients? What happens if you go and pitch lots of jobs and they all say no? You're better off just going and getting a job, go and work for somebody else. And it's that thing is where you've got to start training your own brain to go, you know what, I've got this. Take a back seat. You just go and sit in the corner and be quiet. I'm going to go this way because I know what I'm doing. And once you can get your brain in a way where you've cultivated your mindset enough that you can say to your brain, I'm in control. You don't need to worry. This is okay. I'm going to go this way. And a prime example, when I first started my own business within financial services back in 2007, I've been with the network I joined in October, went to a company meeting in January, came home, and Becky, my wife, said, "Oh, you better sit down." And I remember saying to her, "If you booked a holiday, I'm going to go nuts because with no money, literally 3 months into this business, I've got no.
That sounds like my wife.
This is going to we're going to fall out." And she said, "No, it's not that. It's I'm pregnant," and that was number 4. I mean, but having 3 under 5 at the time was bad enough. Leaving a well-paid job to go and start my own business, but the initial fear of another baby, right? And initially I kind of went, I'm going to go back and what I went before. I'll just ring them and they'll take me back. I'll go back and I'll get my job back and I'll get the company car back and I'll get the salary back. And I actually said to her, this has to work now. Before it had to work. Now it really has to work because we've now got another baby coming. And we haven't looked back. But the thing is having the balls, I suppose some people would say, or as I keep reading online, the ovaries, women are coming out saying they haven't got balls, they've got ovaries, it's fine. But it's having that gumption to actually go, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And the worst case scenario is it doesn't work and I go and get another job working in a bank or another financial institution somewhere and being paid well for doing it. And people like you and me and other entrepreneurs out there have gone down that path and taken that punt and gone, I'm going to make this work. We all know it's a roller coaster. We all know there are days where you sit there and go, what have I done? Why have I done this? But the reality is you've done it because you're now in control of your destiny. But if you can set out at the outset that you would like your business to look in a certain way, you're ahead of 90% of everybody else.
I think for me there, I mean, I'd relate massively to those sort of risks that I've taken and, what if it doesn't work? It's, but I don't know, I've had this sort of work ethic and I've had this just driving me to make it work. And I think if you work really, really hard, you'll get the reward. You can't expect the reward if you're not prepared to put in the hard work. And, we've got that shared sort of skill, mindset, personality trait about being an entrepreneur. And I think if everyone was going to be an entrepreneur, well, that would be a problem because we wouldn't have public services, we wouldn't have healthcare. Yeah. So there is a place in the world for people to be employed. But also on the flip side, if we didn't have the private sector, then life also wouldn't function anyway because you need that balance. So what is it that, for us as entrepreneurs, what have we got that other people don't have that can, we can make a business work? What is it you think that gives us that go to give it a punt and make it happen and make it work?
I think it's 2 things. One, I do believe in the universe and destiny and that there is going to be not necessarily a preordained path that you're going to go down, but I do believe there is a way that you're going to go in life. I do think that obviously there are external factors that are going to help you with that. Like my grandfather was massive in my life growing up when I was a kid. He ran his own business for many, many years. Again, back in the 70s and 80s, he always had money in his pocket. He'd go anywhere and he was always looking for the next opportunity, always. I remember when I was about 7 or 8 years old and went on holiday to Kent and he was walking down the street and there was a sign that's in a car window parked on the side of the road saying this car's sell for 200 quid or what it was. And he went and knocked on the guy's door and bought the car. And my nan didn't drive. So he's now got 2 cars in Kent and my nan doesn't drive. And he's like, I've got to get these 2 cars back. So he had then to pay someone else to drive the car back to Hertfordshire where he lived. And I said, why did you buy that? He said, I know a bloke will buy that for 300 quid when I get back home. And, back then, 300 quid was a sizable chunk of change. So, but he was always open to opportunities. There were no blinkers on him at all. And I grew up kind of watching that and was very a big admirer of what he did and how he did it. And I liked the fact that he would, walk into a pub somewhere and everybody would know who he was and he'd buy everybody a drink because that was just what he was like. And so I do think that a lot of entrepreneurs are created by their surroundings. A lot of entrepreneurs have been created by circumstance. So they've been in a doldrum or they've been in a position where they haven't got anything and they've suddenly gone, actually, I'm going to make a difference and I'm going to go and do this. I do think there's a lot of entrepreneurs who've done it by chance, who've just been lucky. They've been in the right place at the right time to develop a product, and someone's gone, oh, that's the next Velcro or whatever it is, and it's suddenly taken off. Yeah. But I think most of it, comes from within. I think there's a driving force in entrepreneurs. I think everybody's got entrepreneurial spirit. I think there's only those that follow it through are the ones that you could actually look at and go, yeah. I've got a friend of mine, been bankrupt 3 times, and he's still going. And one day he will make it, and he will make millions, honestly. And you look at people like Peter Jones on Dragon's Den. He's been bankrupt, time and time again.
Has he?
Oh, you read his history, go all the way back. He had a tennis business, I think it was back in the 80s and 90s, and he went really successful, and it went bust. And then he lost everything, and he was living out of his car, and then he started again, and he lost everything. He's living out of a shoebox, and then he started again. And now look at the guy; he's a multi-billionaire. So I think the biggest thing with entrepreneurs in particular is that when we get knocked down, we literally bounce back up again, and we get going again. And we go, okay, right, what did I do last time that didn't work? What, I think it was Einstein that said that, you can keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again, exactly the same way. You're an idiot if you expect to get the same result.
Yes, the definition of insanity.
Absolutely.
Doing the same thing day in, day out, expecting a different result.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I think that's the thing with entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurs have got to have the ambition to do it. You've got to want to do it in the first place. So you've got to have that drive coming from somewhere. And as I say, whether that's come from within, whether that's come out of circumstance, whether that's because your parents have driven you to be more than you could possibly be, as a child, I don't know. But I do think that a lot of it is born out of your own personal desire to want more. I watched my dad, love him to bits. He started as a bus driver up in Nottingham in the 70s, and he did every single role on the way through in that company and ended up running the company before he left. So before he retired, he ended up running the company. He had so much respect from the people that worked for him because they knew he could jump behind the wheel of a bus and go and do a service route if he needed to. And they knew that he'd done the inspector's role. They knew that he'd done this role. They knew he'd done that role. So he had done everything. And when I was a kid, I was always, I don't want that. I want to walk in at the top job. I don't want to spend 30 years building up to that career. I want to walk in at the top. And I don't really know where that came from, but it's just always been there.
You've overcome a lot of health challenges in your time, and I'm looking at, what you said there, entrepreneurs, something happens and you bounce back, and I've had my fair share of those. I don't know how I manage it. It could be faith, it could be determination, commitment, and all those things. And in the moment, you're not like, another challenge, great.
I've been waiting for that.
Oh man, you sort of, as you grow in business, you get to the next level, you complete that, and you feel, oh, this is nice. I want a bit of, I just want to enjoy this part of the journey. They're always in me, in 5, nearly 6 years running this business. It comes in 6 months. Yeah. Every 6 months there's a cycle of, there's this next thing and this problem and this issue. But you've overcome a lot of things in your sort of personal journey. And how have you managed to overcome those?
I suppose the biggest one start with 2012. I went for a run, slipped on some ice, hit the back of my head, and had a brain hemorrhage. Lost movement down my left side. Memory was dreadful. Anybody I've met pre-brain injury, it was all still there. Anybody post-brain injury, facial recognition was zero. I think it came to a point where we ended up selling the first financial business because I was in Tesco's, and a chap came up and just started talking to me and my wife. And he walked off. My wife went, "Oh, that was rude. You didn't introduce him." I said, "No idea who he is." And he said, "Well, he clearly knows you." And we sort of worked back through the conversation that we'd had with him and worked out he'd actually done a rather large investment about 2 weeks before. I had no recollection at all of even doing the investment, let alone, and I was like, I can't do this anymore, so I had to get out. So I took 2 years off to recover and get better. Went into business with a friend of mine down in Hereford. And we opened some sort of fine food convenience stores, which he's still running. I stepped back into financial services 6 years ago, about the same time I first met you. And then 2023, as you know, I've been a volunteer Coast Guard for 17 years. Calculated the other day that I think I've actually picked up 18 dead bodies in the 17 years. because people look at the Coast Guard and go, oh, it's like Dad's Army on the coast. It's not. It's a search and rescue team. We do cliff rescues, etc. We're not the RNLI. We get an awful lot. Oh, but it's fun going out on the boat. No, we're not the RNLI. We're land-based search and rescue. And just one day felt like I'd been hit by a bus and just felt awful. And that, as it transpires, was the start of PTSD, which I'm still dealing with now.
So when you say body, these are people who have, just died at sea, or
yeah, it could be anything. We had a couple of suicides, a couple of hangings, people who fell off cliffs, people who jumped off cliffs, people who were just walking on the cliff on the coast path and had a heart attack, and that's it. They're gone. More obscure ones we got called to go and do a rescue in the centre of Haverfordwest for a chap who'd expired, should we say, down a back alley of the back of a building. They were never quite sure whether he fell off because he was on drugs or what, we don't know. But we had to do a rescue off the building to go down and get him because they couldn't get any other way to get down there to get him out. So lots of sort of death and destruction. I mean, some of the injuries are quite catastrophic, so it's quite hard to process. And the thing is, again, being a financial planner, you and I could be sat on a Zoom call together chatting about the weather or whatever, and the pager goes off and that's it. Sorry, James, I've got to go. You go, you chuck the kit on, you go and pick up a dead body, you come back in. Sorry, James, we're saying about the weather. And then you carry on. So there was never that disengage really between that and sort of real life for us. So PTSD has been a bit of an issue. And then in August last year, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. So, as you said, all these challenges come, and every time they come, you look at them, and as you rightly say, you're not sitting there going, yes, another challenge to prove how strong I am. But you just get through it, and you have to. And I think the first one, the brain injury, was the big one because that was completely life changing. Because
you had to learn to walk and talk again.
Everything, yeah. And it was tough. And then the emotional sort of turmoil with that was anger. So I'd just swear like a trooper. If I got tired, it's still not great now, but when I first did it, if I got tired, I would just swear in conversation. I wouldn't even notice I'd sworn. I remember distinctly, we sat at the dinner table one night, I said to the kids, whatever we were having, I said, can you pass me the effing sauce? And my youngest went, oh, Daddy said the F word. And I went, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. I said, no, I effing didn't. He's just said it again. No, I didn't. And my wife's going, no, you did. You said it twice. No, I effing didn't. You just said it again. And I couldn't hear it.
It sounds like a Monty Python sketch.
Honestly, I couldn't hear. It was almost like that word was just felt out my head, but it came out my mouth. So that was a big learning curve to get through that. And I think the learning from that was actually, out of all horrible situations, something good always materializes at some point. And I think it's Steve Jobs who said that you can't connect the dots going forward, you can only connect them going backward. Now, at the time, we had 4 children. We were lucky enough to have 4 children. Had the brain injury, and by 2014, Becky was kind of going, I'm not quite sure I'm done with the kids thing. What do you reckon? Should I have another one? And we'd worked out by that point the most important thing to us at the time was family. So when you do the whole what is money to me thing, mine comes out as family. Money is the security, is everything for the family. So we decided to have another child, and we were very lucky we caught with Layla and had Layla. And it had always been a thing with our family that we didn't want to have a baby with the family because all the older 4 are quite close. And we suddenly got this baby born 2014 who is now 7 years younger than the youngest child. So Becky said, well, should we try for number 6? So we did. And then even now, I don't think, had I not had the brain injury, I don't think we'd have those 2 children. I don't think we would have had that conversation. We would have gone, we're done. We're not having any more kids. That's it. Would have stopped. So the love, light, laughter that they bring into our lives wouldn't have existed if I'd not had the brain injury. So this absolutely horrible traumatic event that happened led to the creation of 2 more lives in our family. And then you roll it forward to things like the cancer. That then is a very big wake-up call to what's important in life. And actually you start looking and thinking, is going to work every day and working all these hours, et cetera, the most important thing in what we do? And the answer is no. So that has led to reduced hours in the business, but it's made the business more focused. And as I said to you earlier, 95% of what I do now is just talking to clients. Everything else is done by my amazing PA, Leanne, who is the world's super spreadsheet Excel wizard. She just I say, can you do this? Yeah, it takes 30 seconds, take me an hour. And she does it in 30 seconds. But that's driven the business to be more focused for me. That gives me then more time to spend with the most important thing in my world, which is the family and Becky and the kids. So I think out of every horrible thing that happens, you have to look for the good things. So even when businesses fail, we've had businesses that have failed. You've put your heart and soul into it. You've worked your backside off to make it work. And just for some reason, it's not the right time. It's not clicked at that moment and it's gone under. And it's gone, and then you're suddenly like, all that time, effort, stress, it's gone. What did I learn? What did we do? When the next business comes, what are we going to do that is different to that? That's suddenly then going to make you go, right, I can see where I've gone wrong now. And as you said earlier, it's not repeating the same mistakes over and over again. You look at it and go, okay, I've learned from that. Pick yourself up, get up, and go again.
For me, personal value is just don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Because if you make the same mistake twice, you clearly haven't learned that lesson. And that's something that I try and hold dear to my personal values. Because something else I say to myself, you win or you learn. I think the failure is part of learning, isn't it? And you can sort of take a negative connotation towards failure, but ultimately it's an opportunity to learn. As long as you learn from that experience, and the next time you meet that circumstance or that challenge, you do it better, you improve, or you overcome it. Absolutely. But
I think you're right. I think that the other thing leading on from that really is also that if you take your problem to somebody else, and you say, for argument's sake, when you finished university, you'd already started the business anyway, as I know. If you would have said to somebody else, I'm going to go and start this business, somebody else might have said, oh, James, I wouldn't do that. Oof, really? And I say this to the kids all the time, is that actually that's their opinion.
Well, take you back when I was thinking about going to university, because I would have been a mature student. I didn't take the typical route of education of going to school, sixth form, degree. My mum gave, my dad, everyone in my family, apart from my dad. My dad was the only person who sort of supported me. When I said to all my family, I'm going to university to study film, my mum said, you are crazy. And Gymraeg, she would have said, it's all in Welsh. You're an idiot. Why are you doing that? All your friends now are doctors and police officers, and they've got proper jobs.
Yes.
But for me, I sort of felt, apart from my father sort of, if you want to do that, go on, boy, you do it. Yeah. He sort of supported that decision because he could see that's what I really wanted to do. But the opinions of my family in that time, when I went to go to university, they thought I was crazy. But looking back now, I know they're very proud of me because they can now see it's worked, it's paid off.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing is, I think it is, you've got to be really careful who you listen to. And we're going back to the thing about what makes entrepreneurs great. I think it's who you choose to listen to, because there are people who wouldn't do what you've done. As you said, they wouldn't have gone back to university. They wouldn't have done, started the business. They wouldn't have done all the things you've done. But that's them. That's their choice. They wouldn't have done it because they don't have that drive, ambition, that desire, that passion, whatever you want to call it. And I think that in life, it's really important if you can find your passion early and go, yeah, that's me. That's the path I want to go down. And if that's a job, if that's nursing, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to be self-employed or you have to run your own business, or you can. There's many, many admirable jobs that you can go and do. I think that you just need to make sure you're doing the right one. Because as I said earlier about being, contentedly discontent, I strive to be discontentedly content. So I want to be in the position where I'm going, I got that, but you know what? I want the next thing now. I want what's the next thing? What's the next opportunity? What am I going to do next? Rather than being, I'm not overly happy with my lot, but I'll take it. I'd rather be the other way around of going, actually, this is where we need to be. There's a brilliant analogy that we've been working on about, when you're a kid and, I don't know, your next door neighbour gets a bicycle. Now, you may have never seen a bicycle before, and you look at it and go, no idea what that is. I don't want one of those. I don't need to know. I don't need to ride a bicycle. And then you see the other kids riding bicycles, and you suddenly think, actually, I want a bicycle. So suddenly bicycles are now on your radar. So you suddenly start thinking, actually, I want to get a bicycle. And then you get on the bicycle, and you can't ride it, because how on earth do you ride a bike for the first time? So you get on the bike, and you learn to ride a bike. And then after so long, riding a bike, like people say, it's like, falling off a bike, you get on it and you start riding again. Once you've learnt to ride a bike, you can ride the bike. You don't have to relearn it. You just get on it and you ride the bike. But the premise of all of it is when you think about it, you started off not knowing that you wanted to ride a bike, and now you can ride a bike without even thinking about it. Same thing with a car. You get in a car for the very first time. And I remember the very first time I ever drove a car, I got in it and I was sat there thinking, God, this is a weapon of death. I could kill someone in this thing. So you drive it really carefully, and you've got to sit there and you've got to remember to look in your mirrors and put your seatbelt on and check that and indicate, and at the same time putting your clutch in and bring the accelerator up a little bit. You bring the clutch and put it together. And it's a lot of stuff to remember. And when you first get in a car to drive, you go, this is impossible. And then you get to a point where driving a car is second nature. Like now you go out there, get in the car, turn the engine on, drive home. And sometimes you get home and think, how the hell did I get here? Because you've just done it on autopilot. But entrepreneurs are like that. If you can get to an entrepreneurial point where you are in autopilot, that you just go, I know what I've got to do. I know how to make this better. I mean, like in your world with the film and the video and the creative stuff, you've now got so much experience that you can go, I know how to do that. Yet when you started, you didn't.
Well, people say, you make it look so easy. And, well, we do, because we've got that experience, that knowledge.
Absolutely.
And that wouldn't have been the case in making my first film, because it would have taken me a lot longer to make the first film. But by the time I've made my 1000th film, I'm a hell of a lot better than when I did it the first time, Something you're very passionate about is helping people. It's quite clear. Now I think you're really experiencing, you're very skilled in financial planning. You've built up that sort of business, and you want to try something a bit different. You realize you help people, you enjoy helping people, and now you want to help. Sort of what I see is you've overcome with your own mindset to overcome certain challenges, health challenges, family challenges, and all these things. But you want to try and help more people, and you've now got that mindset thing, which is there's a story in the name of that. But now in 2025 and beyond, growing this sort of side hustle coaching thing. Yeah. Let's make it a nice little business that you sort of put more time and energy into. So tell me a bit about why you think that now you've got this opportunity to help encourage people and to just feed and instill positivity in people's lives, probably in a business sense. Why are you now sort of passionate about this over your financial planning?
I think it's twofold. I mean, the last couple of years or so have been tough in the business anyway for the health reasons, the mental health reasons. But it's interesting because you're talking to clients about their wealth and you're talking about their plans, and then they throw a curveball at you by saying, well, my dad's just died, what do I do? Or this has happened, what do I do? And it almost becomes like life coaching. So you're almost dual aspecting, because you're going, we've got the financial plan that says you can retire on X amount of money and it'll all be okay. But we've got to actually get you there. Because if you're 40 thinking I'm going to retire at 60, that's great if your financial plan is sound and you've got enough money to retire on at 60. But mentally, you've got to get from 40 to 60 and actually make it in order to enjoy the retirement. So it's really a kind of a passion project that more and more these days, more and more people seem to be struggling with mindset, struggling with how they think about themselves, how they talk about themselves, how their inner voice talks to themselves. And it's real when you realise that your inner voice is you. Nobody else is controlling it but you. So some people go, oh yeah, but the voice in my head says I can't do it. But that's you telling you can't do it. And I look at that and I know that's overcomable. You can change it. You can change your paradigm, the thing that controls who you are and what you do. And I know how to do that. And I know that I can help people achieve these things. And we've sort of skirted around things like manifestation and visualization and all this kind of thing. But when you look at things through, shall we say, negative eyes, things are going wrong. There's a restructuring your business or something, or somebody's just announced a wave of redundancies or whatever it may be. It's easy to suddenly go, well, that's it. What do I do? I'm screwed. That's it. There's nothing left. So you can change that. You can take that as an opportunity and go, actually, what that means is that job I haven't really enjoyed for the last 10 years, I don't have to do anymore. I've now got the opportunity to go and do whatever I want. But you've got to get it in there to start making it actually happen. And things like visualization, if you visualize what you want, you'll start to see it everywhere. We're talking about cars earlier, and Amy wants to get a new car. If she went, I want this car, and it's this model, and it's this color, I guarantee on the way home tonight you'd see 6 of them at least. Because suddenly the blinkers have gone like that, your eyes are open, the opportunity is there, and you go, oh, there's one, there's one.
Spot them.
So it's about that thing of, I want to try and help people take those blinkers off and be more than they can be.
That's good. Do you still have a whiteboard in your office?
6 whiteboards currently.
6?
Yeah.
Because I remember when I came round your office, the visualization sort of element.
Absolutely, yeah.
I remember, because, people can't see it now, but there is a whiteboard at the back of the office.
There is. I attest to that. Yes, there is.
Because for us, it's just, I think there's something that you can have all the project management tools, you can have all the digital mind maps. I think there's just something about having something on a physical board in writing, just helps to really grasp. If you want to try and achieve a certain goal or a vision, if it's written down on paper, on a board, I think you're far more likely to achieve it. And there's something, for me as someone who's involved in the digital space of creation, creative media, I think pen and paper still has a place, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And the thing is, there's lots of, I watched Dragon's Den last night, and there was a company on there selling journals. And they do water bottles and pens. You name it, they branded it, and it's all about mindset, manifestation, and journaling. And the guy on there, his backstory is that he had cancer, and he then decided that he would start journaling, and he didn't really know where to start. And so they've created this program that will help you learn how to journal and get the best out of it, and make a plan, and so on and so forth. But throwaway tip on my phone, which is just over there, on my screensaver on my phone, I've got 3 things I want to achieve this year. And every single time I pick my phone up, and we're all gluttons for it these days with smartphones, you're picking them up all the time. Every time I pick that phone up, subliminally, I'm reading those 3 things.
Do you want to share any of those goals?
Oh, well, one of them is to spend, I want to go away 3 times with just Becky this year. So just me and her, have 3 breaks away from the kids and family, just me and her.
You done any yet?
Yeah, we did one. Went to New York in February. We're having a night away tonight, which doesn't really count, but we are going away for our wedding anniversary in September. But the other one's a business goal, and the other one was actually to try and do the 3 peaks, because the day I went for my biopsy when they realised I had cancer was the day I was supposed to be going and climbing the 3 peaks in 24 hours. And I trained for it, and I was ready to go, and I was all good to go, and the letter came through saying, come for a biopsy on the same day, and I was like, and I rang the consultant, he's a bit of a trekker, and he said, look, the hills will always be there. The mountains were going to be there for, so go and do it another day. So that's one of my things to try and get done this year. But by having it, as you say, visual, even when you're not seeing it, you're seeing it. Your subconscious brain is still seeing it on that board that says X, Y, and Z has happened, because you always put it in the present tense. So if it's a business goal, you might say, well, I want to get, 30 clients this year. I don't know what it would be, but along that line. So you could write on the board, and so happy and grateful now I've got 30 clients. When I started Sleekstone back in 2019, I started with 0 clients. We've now got 35 million under management we look after for about 115 households. So from nothing to something quite quickly, because that was always my goal. Because I had a very clear plan of year 1, I want to be here. Year 2, I'm going to be here. Year 3, I'm going to be there. And it was written down. And I write an affirmation thing every single day, 3 times every single day. So happy and grateful now that in the present tense, this has happened. And it can be anything from a business goal, a life goal, something I want to do with the kids, how I feel about money. Like for a long time, as lots of people are going to relate to, having lots of children, it's expensive business. And for a long time, all I was focused on was debt. And I was, oh my God, we've got debt, we've got a credit card, we've got this, we've got that, we've got the other. And I'm a massive believer in you get what you think about. So the more you think about something, the more you get it. So the more I thought about debt, the more debt you actually got.
Yeah.
It's serviceable debt, which is fine, that's okay. But the more you think about it, the more you accumulate. Whereas I actually flipped it 4 years ago when actually I'm going to start thinking in abundance. I literally wrote down every day, we are now in a financial position where we can do what we want, when we want, without worrying about the money. And at the time I wrote it, it wasn't true. It's completely untrue. But it's now become true because I've stopped worrying about money. And not in the sense that we're lavish or we're extravagant or anything like that, but we now just go, actually, life is short. let's go and do that thing. Let's go on that holiday. Let's take the opportunity. And the more you start opening yourself to opportunities, the more they come. And it's insane how it works. Absolutely insane.
It's great. Mark, this podcast is all about people sharing their personal stories, and we got to hear a little bit about yours today. If you had the opportunity to listen to somebody's personal story, that could be somebody influential, inspirational, in the financial services world, mogul like you've shared about Jeff Bezos, who might that person be?
Question. I think probably James Hunt, the racing driver. Because when I was growing up as a kid, he was just the sort of legacy of him was starting to come to a bit of an end. And it went into Ayrton Senna and all the other racing drivers back then, the F1 guys. But James Hunt, I mean, there's a great film, is it Rush? I think it is, where they've sort of biopicked his life. And he just lived life on the edge completely. I mean, he was absolutely, he was an alcoholic. He'd go out and do whatever he wanted to do. And I'd love to know what drove him. You know, what makes any racing driver want to get behind a car, you know, especially these days at 230, 240 mile an hour in a piece of fiberglass effectively toward a concrete wall. You know, mindset, the mindset they must have to get in that car and trust themselves to do what they've got to do. But he sort of personified that thing in the 70s where sports people were insane and just did what they wanted and they didn't care. And I love that. I love the fact. I love people who just go, you know, I don't care what anybody thinks.
No fear. It's
Absolutely.
Incredible the trust they have in their own ability. Formula One, big fan of that. Hoping for my 30th this year, we will go to watch the Italian Grand Prix.
Amy, buy him a ticket. Birthday. Buy him a ticket.
Well, we need the money, so I'm manifesting that we will have the money to go and watch a Formula One race in Monza. That's what I'm looking forward to. Mark, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your personal story. If anyone wants to reach out or maybe learn more about your journey, maybe they're a bit stuck and they need a positive mindset, how can they reach out?
LinkedIn. So look for That Mindset thing on LinkedIn, or search me personally and you'll find the link through there as well.
Excellent. Thank you for coming down, and it's been a pleasure to catch up and hear about your story, Mark.
Great to see you, mate.